Hi, my name is Brianna Valera, and today I'm going to be doing my instructional video on the Syrian refugees. The objectives, if this were to be presented to a class, is they will understand the Syrian civil war, they will know where the refugees are going, and they will understand what the Obama and Trump administration did to handle the Syrian refugee crisis. So first we're going to start here with a map. It's important for us to pay attention to, of course, obviously Syria right here with the red. We also want to pay attention to Turkey, Germany, as well as Greece. So starting with the Syrian civil war, we have, beginning with leadership, we had from 1971 to 2000, Hafez al-Assad ruled as a dictator. Then from 2000 to present, his son Bashar al-Assad took over and is the current president of Syria. During the Arab Spring protests, which is when several Middle Eastern countries were being overthrown by their government, Syria followed suit and held protest. But al-Assad showed that he was not going to back down and did not want to give up his power. So in 2011, the military began to shoot into a group of protesters. That's what's said to have started that civil war. Hundreds of people died, and this is when rebel groups began to take shape. The war is split into four groups: President Bashar al-Assad, the rebels, the Kurds, and the Islamic State group. The president is backed up by Russia, Iran, and several Shia militias. The two big rebel groups are Jaish al-Islam and Adad al-Sham. The Kurds are further up north. They're an ethnic group that is allied with the United States. Then we have the Islamic State that are fanatical jihadists, and they control large parts of Syria and Iraq. So why are people fighting? Bashar al-Assad will do anything to stay in power. He has already been accused of war crimes against his own people, which include chemical bombings. So President Assad is Russia's closest ally in that region. And if Assad were to lose, that means Russia would lose their key foothold in the Middle East. And then Russia would lose Tartus, which is their only Mediterranean port. Iran is supporting Assad mainly because they're an old ally, but also because it counters the regional rival of Saudi Arabia, and then which would stop them from influencing Syria. The rebel groups only have one thing in common, and that is they want to take Assad down. But because of their lack of unification, they're not doing so well. Also, they also have to go against Russian air power and Iranian militia, so that's also another thing against them. The Kurds are a large group that had never really had their own state, so when this war started, they immediately took over Rojava, so their main fight is for autonomy and against the Islamic State. The U.S. did work and train and arm a group called the Syrian Democratic Forces, which are mainly Kurdish fighters called the YPG. And the YPG was crucial in driving the Islamic State out of northeastern Syria. Surprisingly, Turkey also plays a big role in the war as well. While Turkey shelters millions of refugees, they also fund a rebel group called Free Syrian Army, and they are accused of funding jihadists. Turkey also fears Kurdish autonomy, thinking it would fuel separatism in Turkey, so it launched its own war against the YPG. Because Turkey believed the YPG to be terrorist, so now we have Turkey, who's a member of NATO, working with Russia. So now we have all of these civilians who are stuck between the government, several rebel groups, and religious extremists. So then where are they going to go? We have neighbors. So many Syrian refugees went to neighboring countries like Lebanon, who's taken about 1 million, a little over 1 million. Iraq, who's taken about 250,000. Jordan, about 650,000. Egypt, 112,000. And then, of course, however, Arab states in the Persian Gulf haven't accepted any. These countries include Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. However, the countries that do have refugees were not prepared. In fact, we have not seen these many refugees since World War II. So even things like the UN and World Food Programs did not have enough money and resources to help this many refugees. These circumstances led to many refugee camps that were set up to have a lack of proper shelter, food, and medical supplies. So with many Syrians losing hope in their current situation, they decided to look for asylum in Europe. So from 2007 to 2014, the EU spent 2 billion euros on new technology and supplies for border control, but spent very little to prepare for incoming refugees. So in the EU, refugees have to stay in a state that they arrived in first, which put a ton of pressure on border states who did not have the best financial setup for refugees, like who I mentioned earlier, Greece, who was already on the verge of economic crisis. They weren't able to take a large amount of refugees, which led to many refugees being placed on islands that were usually used for tourists. Many places just plainly said no to letting in any refugees into their states because of this. Because of this, many refugees would attempt to sneak into states through the Mediterranean. In 2014, the UK lobbied to stop a mission called the Mare Nostrum, where the goal was to rescue and stop people from drowning in the Mediterranean. So Mare Nostrum was to save people who were trying to cross the ocean to get into the UK, because there was the thing, once you got there, you could stay there. But of course, crossing was very dangerous. You could die while doing so, so they were attempting to save people, to not have so many people die trying to get to freedom. However, the UK stopped it. And then by stopping this, they thought by letting the numbers of deaths at sea go up, then people would stop attempting it. This, however, of course, did not work. A huge turning point, however, on how people viewed refugees is when a picture went viral of a dead Syrian boy face down washed up on the beach in Turkey. That is when Germany announced that without any exceptions to allowing all Syrian refugees and prepared to take in 800,000 people in 2015. But unfortunately, they put up temporary border controls a few days later, and they demanded a permanent solution from the EU. Okay, so what about us? What did we do? Oh, sorry, before I move on to that, this is a picture of one of the refugee camps. You can see that it's not great conditions. We have really poorly set up walls here, and it doesn't look like there's any place to like lay down or to relax or anything like that. Okay, so with the Obama administration. In 2016, the U.S. admitted 12,500 Syrian refugees, which is over the estimated goal of the 10,000 that had been set. The total refugees of the fiscal year of 2016 being 85,000, with Obama's administration planning to allow in 110,000 more over the following 12 months. Although it was acknowledged that the numbers are by region rather than specific countries, Ann Richard, the Assistant Secretary of State for Population, said this. This administration has been clear. It wants more Syrians. End quote. And then starting another quote by the same person, Ann Richard. My guidance is we want to bring even more than we brought this year without having a target. End quote. September 20th, 2016, Obama held a summit at the United Nations where he told everyone we had to, quote, fulfill a moral obligation, end quote. An accomplishment of that summit is that 49 countries pledged more aid, education, and legal job opportunities to Syrian refugees. Also, the State Department said it will provide $364 million to humanitarian aid for Syrians who were affected by the war. According to the Washington Post in 2016, since 2011, the U.S. has provided $5.9 billion of aid for Syrians. However, it has been tough to get everyone's approval in the United States. More than 30 Republican governors had said that Syrian refugees are not welcomed in their states. But because this was said when Obama was still in office, the refugees were still relocated to over 180 cities in 2016. Some major ones like Chicago, San Diego, and then other small ones like Buffalo. Okay, and then we have Trump's administration, which was very different. On January 27, 2017, Trump signed the Executive Order 13769 titled Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorist Entry into the United States, aka the Muslim ban or travel ban. The original ban, despite being very vague and contradictory to who it would apply to, a couple things were clear. The ban barred citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries like Libya, Sudan, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Syria, and Somalia for 90 days, and any refugee cases for 120 days. Immediately, cases were filed in order to stop this travel ban, claiming that it is unconstitutional, one of those cases being Hawaii versus Trump, the case originating in Hawaii and Maryland. Then, of course, we have the following nationals are covered by, and then we have a couple different travel bans that were kind of created by the Trump administration. So we have Travel Ban 3.0, which affected Libya, Yemen, Iran, North Korea, and Syria, Somalia, and Venezuela as well. Of course, we do have some exemptions to that travel ban, being lawful permanent residents or green card holders, foreign nationals admitted or paroled to the United States on or after the effective date, those traveling for diplomatic or related visa reasons, other things like that. The following year, however, Trump's first full fiscal year in office, he set the nation's refugee limit at 45,000, a new low at that time, with the U.S. ultimately emitting about 22,500 to be exact. Trump then set a refugee limit at 30,000 for the fiscal year that ended September 30th, 2019, and the refugee admissions reached this cap. So we had 30,000 people enter, that was it. For the fiscal year of 2020, which started October 1st, 2019, Trump set a limit of 18,000 refugees. So not a lot. I don't have any current information for Biden, just because COVID has been really crazy. So as soon as that information pops up about refugee information from the fiscal year, I will definitely give an update on that. But for now, that is the end of Syrian refugee information. We do have the bibliography here that will be linked. I'll put my slides up with my video, and this just links all the information I got, and then of course that picture that I used, and that is it. Thank you so much for listening. I know that was a lot, but I think this is a really important topic and a really difficult one to hear, and I'm glad that I was able to talk about it. Thank you.